Our favourite person to talk to in the entire world is the wonderful Megyn Kelly. And for one last time this year, let us say hello to the wonderful Megyn Kelly from the Megyn Kelly Show, Sirius XM. Rockstar, what a year. We started off with a president that we all knew wasn't up to it. We end with a president who is nowhere to be seen, but the replacement president will take him every day of the week. What a year. It's been crazy, right?
I know. It's really incredible when you think about it. They just said that the president's going to be named Time Magazine's Person of the Year, President-elect Donald Trump, and it had to be him. I mean, I don't know if it was a head fake or what, but they were saying, well, it might be. They were considering maybe Kamala Harris. Okay, I mean, with the mainstream media, you'd have to consider that they would do something that's stupid.
Yeah.
Maybe Elon Musk. Okay, that could make some sense. But in a year like this, it could only ever have been one person. It has to be Donald Trump. It is truly the most stunning political comeback maybe even of all time. And on top of having done it, having actually won the presidency after being so down and out, he was almost assassinated twice. I mean, he actually was hit by an assassin's bullet in front of all of our eyes and committed one of the most extreme acts of bravery we've ever witnessed from a presidential candidate or a president. So to have ignored that and to have made it anyone other than Donald Trump would have been just such a farce. And in naming him Person of the Year, although they do name people who they hate sometimes, it really does once again put the lie to the whole Hitler, fascist, etc. smear that's been unleashed against him time and time again by publications like Time Magazine.
I think also Time Magazine knows that if they put Trump as Person of the Year, there's a person in Florida who orders about 10,000 copies of the magazine just to keep in the ballroom, just to hand out to guests at their club. I don't know who that person is, but there's a very good chance that they are being bulk ordered by Mar-a-Lago.
Paul, can I tell you, when I went to see Trump in his office back in 15 or 16, it was 16, in Trump Tower, stacks and stacks and stacks of magazines all over his desk just of him. Just copies of magazines. This is before he was president.
Success magazine from February '87.
Everywhere. It was all over. And I think I've told you the story, but he used to send me at random, just when I was on Fox News, articles about me. He would just pull the article and then he would just sign it, Donald J. Trump.
It's the little touches. It's the little touches.
I know I have that. But yeah, he does like to see himself on magazines.
I love it. The sickest story in a long time, and God love America, but it can produce some sick stories. There's this person who murdered the CEO of an insurance company. The person who is the murderer isn't just infamous because of the murder, but in some bizarre, sick world, he's either Robin Hood, he's an example of somebody who's been pushed too far by an insurance company, or he's just hot and they'd like to take care of him. This is screwed up, Megyn. I've heard your show today about it multiple days. This is screwed up that even on one of those stupid late night shows, they're openly showing the texts of the female staff about this dreamboat who shot someone on Fifth Avenue in the back.
A dad who has two kids who are 16 and 18, 11, 12 days before Christmas. I mean, it's absolutely sick. And you think about some of the disgusting killers that we've seen in America over the past 10 years. Generally, I don't say their names because I have no desire to contribute to their infamy. But let's just take, without saying his name, the shooter at Sandy Hook, who killed a classroom full of first graders. First graders. That is one sick MFer. And you can't see a world in which people would say anything complimentary about him. About his looks, about his courage, you would very clearly see such a person commenting like that as a sick MFer. I mean, deeply sick. And this is no different whatsoever. This man they killed, Brian Thompson, that this guy, Luigi, allegedly killed, was 50 years old. His dad worked in a grain elevator. I think his mom was a beautician. He was entirely self-made. He worked hard and got good grades and wound up being valedictorian of his school, became the prom king, married his sweetheart, and worked hard and rose to the top of one of our biggest industries, insurance, which employs millions of Americans. And this other guy was born into enormous privilege, was put through a Tony Boys school, the alleged killer, for $40,000 a year, went to UPenn to get a bachelor's and a master's, which is one of the wokest, most annoying Ivy League schools we have in America, has parents who own country clubs and multiple other businesses. And we're supposed to feel sorry for the latter, and we're supposed to not be rooting for the former, the one who was self-made, who was gunned down with 2 children, 2 young boys who now are fatherless. We're supposed to celebrate his murder while we cheer the prick country club owner kid, spoiled, snot-nosed kid who wasn't grateful for any of the benefits he'd been given by the society. And as far as I can tell, didn't even have an honest gripe with an insurance company. There's absolutely no allegations so far, not that this would justify it, that he was denied coverage, that a loved one was denied coverage, as we suspected would likely be the case. No, he had some back injury. That's it. That's all we know. And by the way, when you're that rich, having insurance cover your injury or not is kind of irrelevant. You can pay out of pocket when you're as rich as Luigi's family is. So there's something deeply wrong. There's a rot inside of these people cheering the murder of this man just because he was wealthy by this point in his life, and he ran an agency within an industry that's not popular. But even that is so fool-headed. Insurance agency, sure, everybody's been annoyed by an insurer. They don't really love to pay. They don't rush to help you. But the vast majority of Americans, if you look at the polls, are actually pretty satisfied with their insurance and with their insurance companies. So while they're sometimes irritating, overall, they do the job. And what's the alternative without them? You pay out of pocket, which was how most people were doing it back in the 70s. And you didn't have the kind of coverage we have today. You had like catastrophic coverage. Or B, you rely on the government, which leads to the worst health care imaginable. Like, ask a Canadian how long they have to wait after they have a lump found in the breast to get it biopsied. And after you get that biopsy and it proves to be malignant or cancerous, how long you have to wait to have it taken out. It's sick. People are dying on these waiting lines. You know what they do? They cross the border into America, where private insurance helps the system work. No one's making these defenses because we don't really want to engage with the ranting musings of a madman. But you almost have to now because these loons on the left are trying to make a hero, a martyr out of him as they tout his abs and talk about how much they want to sleep with him and visit him for a conjugal visit. They're not well.
No, and again, it's something for lunatics on the internet. But when you see a United States senator, when you see people who put together their nightly television show where it's not off the top of their head, it's not like how you and I work. It's heavily edited and taped and written, and every single thing goes through 100 hands, and they mainstream, and it gives you an insight, and it is a sickening insight into certain parts of the culture that above the water seem to be normal, but when push comes to shove, we either see it, say, through Trump derangement syndrome, but very specifically through this, that you see the type of genuinely sick puppies that are hiding in plain sight, above the line, elevated in society, either politically or via their position like a Jimmy Kimmel. And that's what equally frightens me.
Couldn't agree with that more. And the irony of Jimmy Kimmel's staff and Jimmy Kimmel celebrating this by putting these comments of his staff wanting to sleep with this guy on camera, like it's such a fun thing. It's so delightful. And who could blame them? When Jimmy Kimmel probably makes $30 million a year, Jimmy Kimmel really spends his nights on air trying to destroy one man, Donald Trump. Sure. That's all he's wanted to do. He was completely on board the demonization of Trump, even when it was endangering Trump's life, getting into the heads of these lunatics who repeatedly were trying to take him out. He didn't care. He didn't care about the value of human life then because it was a Republican who he hates. And he's been really open about that. And all these people were complicit in that. But now they see this guy as a hero because he's standing up. He's standing up for the poor folks who have had their insurance claims, I guess, denied by Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. But meanwhile, Brian Thompson was actually in the business of helping save lives. It was more a situation when you run an insurance company, that you can't save them all, that you do have to actually, you're in the very tough position of having to make very hard choices. But without insurance companies, far more Americans would die, far more. None of these realities may be acknowledged because we're supposed to hate corporate greed. And if we don't, we're somehow on the wrong side. But what do they say when they look at Jimmy Kimmel and his $30 million a year for sitting for 1 hour a day, licking the asses of celebrities? Is that not corporate greed in your face?
Yeah, 100%. Well, literally, there'll be somebody homeless outside his studio there in West Hollywood. Caitlin Clark. So, for Australians who don't know who that is, Caitlin Clark is an absolute phenomenon of female basketball in the United States. She's a white player who burst onto the scene and could be best of all time, right? But of course, in a sport where they don't want, let's be honest, a white girl to be the face of the sport, she's had to take the knee proverbially and kiss the ring, and she is apologising for white privilege, Megyn.
She's done. Honestly, this woman, she just alienated a huge portion of her fan base. You should see, I tweeted about this, and my Twitter feed is littered with people saying, I'm done with her. I'm over her. You know, that they'd been rooting for her. She went into the WNBA. She revolutionized the WNBA, which no one was watching because it's boring. And people started to watch it. People started to go to the games. The attendance at these games went up by some 2/3 in many instances. Her games in particular brought all sorts of attention to the league. She's like the Michael Jordan of the WNBA. And most people would say, oh, tell me more about her, and would never ask about skin color. They'd just be like, oh, there's some woman who's really dominating the WNBA, and she's getting all these butts in the seats, and she's getting all these people to buy tickets and tune in, and cable rates are going up and ad rates are going up, and all the players will benefit by making more money and becoming more famous and just getting more attention. No, that's not how they've received her. They're mad she's white.
Yep.
They're racists. These are raging racists in the WNBA. And what's really unfortunate is that Caitlin Clark has bent the knee, and she doesn't seem to realize that no amount of knee bending is going to get her what she wants. So apparently she's going to have to learn this the hard way. She went into the WNBA and she was getting elbowed right in the eye socket. She had one woman scratch her face with the long fingernails. It was very obviously intentional. We could go through, the long list of the assaults that have been committed against Caitlin Clark by other players who are so jealous they can't see straight when they look at her and the attention she's getting. And she has tried to play it off like it didn't happen. It wasn't intentional. I don't know what you're talking about. You people are making a controversy where none exists. She's just been trying to stay up here, like I'm above it all. And I get it. The rest of us see it very clearly. We know what she's doing. But now Time Magazine, back to them, makes her the athlete of the year. And she feels the need in this interview to say, appreciate it, but I'm white. And with that, there comes enormous privilege. And, I really think it's important that you pay attention to the Black women who are in this league, who built this league. And I really feel it's my role to make sure that people do that. I mean, she just cannot get down low enough for them to really just kick her in the face. They're never going to pat her on the head and say, good little white girl, good little white girl. They're just going to kick her in the face over and over. One reporter asked after that intentional, scratch of her face, asked, hey, did you intentionally scratch Caitlin Clark? And the WNBA joined together to issue a statement trying to ban that reporter from their games and saying she was a racist for asking that, and they will not be talked to like that by So this is where they are. The Black players, probably not all of them, but I haven't heard one dissent from what's being done to Caitlin, are rising up against this white player solely because of skin color. It is racist bullying to its core. And when she gets profiled by Time Magazine, instead of just ignoring race and saying, I'm really grateful, thank you. Or, you know what your other option is, Caitlin, is to say, no thanks. If you really mean it, if what you really want is the spotlight on the Black players, then don't say you'll sit for the profile. Sorry, Paul, but this is ridiculous. She wants it both ways. She wants to be the person of the year, the athlete of the year, but she wants us to know she feels really bad about it. She's really sorry she's so white, and she really wants the black players' profile. It's like Cinderella. Like, I don't really want to go out with the prince. Please pay attention to these very unattractive stepsisters. That's really what she's saying. I know you don't want to look at them. You really want to look at me, but I feel bad about all the attention. And just take a minute to look at them, because they, after all, did get this castle in the first place that I now am set to rule. No one's buying it. It's insincere. It's condescending. Not to defend these black players who are trying to torture her, but I'm sure not all of them agree with what's being done to her. And some of them are probably offended. She's like, oh, pity the poor black players over here and give them the spotlight for once, as she adorns herself in covers and lengthy feature pieces. The bottom line, there's no one left to root for here.
You can say whatever you want to. This is our last chat for the year, and so I'm turning my phone off after this. The bosses, I'll get the message in about 6 weeks' time. I look forward to that then. By the way, you're talking about Time Magazine a couple of times, and obviously you are too modest to make reference to this, but I will gladly make reference to it. At a point in time, you were referred to by Time Magazine as one of the 100 most influential people in the world, which means, did you get to go to one of those parties where the other 99 most influential people, and how boring must it have been to be around all these people who are like, yeah, like there's two types of people.
Horrible.
There's the people who, of course I should be here, and then there's the other half that goes, I'll never be here again, so I'll be here now.
It wasn't that fancy, I have to say. It was fine. I've been to a few of them. It really wasn't that big a deal. They do it every year, and it's really just like trying to call attention to themselves. And the 100 most influential people are not really 100 most influential people. I got to take that off of my bio. I think it's on my lengthy bio. Who gives to, no one cares. I'll tell you, the most interesting people I ever met at one of those things, because once you get on the list, they invite you back and back, were the brother and sister, or is it a husband and wife? I can't remember, who wrote all the lyrics and wrote Frozen. The musical Frozen.
Oh, wow.
What a dynamic pair. They were really interesting. But for the most part, these things are a ginormous bore. Especially when you're right of center, everyone's just looking over your shoulder for somebody who can do something for them. And meanwhile, I'm like, I also find you boring and someone I don't want to talk to, but I am too polite to show that to you. That's the difference between the two of us. That's generally my feeling at these events.
Yeah, correct. And certainly when it comes to my wife, while I would never be invited to something as important as that, anything that is mildly important, she's like, no. Like, see ya, you go.
Wise woman.
Yeah, you go do the stuff out front, and I'll take care of the real world. All right, now, before we go, we're going to reflect upon the obvious politics as we did at the start. There have been many times over the journey with you, and we're only just getting started, my dear friend, where we have never been hopeless, but at times thought, geez, are we kind of the only two left on the island? Are we the last two Japanese soldiers that are fighting a war here, and it's all been over for a long time? But it's a theme we've spoken about many times since the election, but that affirmation of going, no, you're not alone. In fact, your position is the majority position. In the weeks since the election, as Trump starts to put together the team around him, and I've got to say, I am surprised that we haven't had the promise of the Million Woman March. Yes, there's not the little pink hats being knitted by little girls around the country. It feels like he's actually going to get a crack when 2025 starts up. Sure, there'll be plenty that'll be there to gum up the works, but it's not going to be dead on arrival like maybe last time.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm having the same feeling. However, I think when Trump starts to govern, they're going to be right back at it, because what's going to start happening is deportations, and the left is going to lose its mind because they have to cover the news every day. And let me tell you, the business model for NBC, ABC, CBS, MSNBC, and CNN is not, let's cover Trump fairly and see how our ratings do. That is not... That's not what their viewers have been trained to want, or what they actually want. And so their wants are going to drive the news cycle, not the other way around. And I think there's a little honeymoon period now, because he won decisively, and he's not really doing much right now other than naming people. Once he gets in there and starts to govern, I know Trump wants to be loved. They don't love him, and they won't love him. They really, truly suffer from TDS. So while right now they're licking their wounds and they're kind of recovering, and they're probably focused on some other kind of TV, not news, because MSNBC's ratings have been cut in half. They're just not watching TV. They'll come back. They'll listen to this hyperbolic coverage about how terrible whatever it is he's doing is, and they'll start, throwing daggers again. So I don't have a lot of hope that it's going to remain optimistic or hopeful or open-minded to Trump. I think Trump is still thinking that could happen. I count me as a naysayer. I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah, I think we've all been to this rodeo before. Anyway, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Wait, before I go.
Yes,
no, wait,
yes.
you can't wrap me here.
We're not rapping. Stop the rapping.
Literally, we might not see each other when the break is over because America appears to be under attack from space aliens.
Oh, yeah, okay.
A foreign
I'm sorry.
nation.
How could I not do
So
it?
we have to discuss what's happening in New Jersey.
There's drones everywhere, but nobody's saying what they are. What's going on, darling?
Oh, they're saying that they are SUV-sized drones, that there are hundreds of them over New Jersey, including over military sites, and no one knows what they are. Or at least no one's admitting that they know. So the local lawmakers in New Jersey just had a briefing with the feds, and they walked out angry, steam coming out of their ears saying, we learned nothing. The feds say they don't know what these are. They don't know where they're from. One lawmaker was like, it's from Iran. They have some stealth mothership off the coast, and these are Iranian drones. And then promptly the FBI denied that. And the Pentagon denied that, saying that's not true. Well, then why did this lawmaker who was just in the briefing come out and say that? The other lawmakers are saying we have no idea. The feds, who have jurisdiction to shoot them down or do something about them, are doing nothing, which leads a lot of people to think they're ours, and so we're protecting them. But if they're ours, why wouldn't we have removed them by now that they've been spotted and they've been a news story? They've been flying over there since November 18th. Then the other side swoops in to say, is this a government effort to protect us that they can't shut down because they've seen something? They think we're going to be hit by a dirty bomb. This is my speculation, according to some people online. They're speculating, like, is something awful about to happen, so they need the drones. The speculation has gotten so out of control, and that's not even factoring in little green men and those possibilities. No one knows what's happening. I hope I live. I hope we do this hit when you're done with vacay, and I can tell you all about what they were.
Well, just we could guess, of course, that maybe they just were Amazon drones that were trying to drop off alcohol to Kamala, and they all got lost, and they're just swirling around in the sky.
Okay, if that's true, because it could be. I'm sure she's desperate for a cocktail, and she has the doggy. What's up there? What's the? Anyway, it could be, but. Apparently, these things disappear. Like you see them, now you don't. And there's videotape of them. Go Google them. This is not made up. You can see them. It looks almost like shooting stars if you look at the time-lapse video. They've been spotted every night. It comes out for like 7 hours. But as soon as somebody tries to mess with them, they disappear. So now how is that? And how are they SUV sized, Paul? That's what I want to know. What in the hell? And are they scoping out? Trump has a golf course there and a home in Bedminster. I'm just going to tell you, it's not that far from where I spend my summers at the Jersey Shore. So I would like to know if there's some sort of a nuclear attack being planned. Just, FYI. I thought my biggest problem down there was the windmills they're about to build. This has gotten my attention. And no matter who gets involved at what level, everyone says, I know nothing. I see nothing. There's no story here. Ignore the drones in front of your eyes. So I don't know. Is it you guys? Do you have something you want to? Do you know something I don't know?
I'm sorry that the satellites just break. I'm disappearing. I'm disappearing now. Goodbye, Megyn. Goodbye.
Oh, don't forget to come back and see me, because you shouldn't let anybody take your power.
You got your power.
Paul.
You got your power.
My power. I got my vodka. Go be joyful.
Merry Christmas. We don't say Merry Christmas here.
Happy Kwanzaa.
We love you, Megyn. Thank you so much for everything. You are the best. We love you. We'll see you next year.
Much love to you and your audience, Joe. See you next year.